Kim Tae-ho stared at the white ceiling of the military hospital. His left arm was wrapped in medical bandages, and his ribs still hurt when he breathed. The last mission had been rough. 3 weeks fighting space pirates near the outer colonies, and half his team did not make it back. The door to his room opened with a soft beep. Tae-ho expected to see Dr. Martinez with his daily checkup. Instead, a small woman with pointed ears walked in. She wore a bright green uniform and carried a glowing tablet. "Colonel Kim Tae-ho," she said with a cheerful smile. "Key, my name is Nari. I have a job offer for you." Tae-ho blinked. The woman was no taller than his shoulder, with ears that came to sharp points. Her uniform looked like something from a children's storybook. He wondered if the pain medication was making him see things. "I think you have the wrong room," he said slowly. Nari pulled a chair closer to his bed and sat down. "You defended the mining station on Capital 4 for 6 days with only 12 soldiers. You held off 200 raiders until help arrived. You saved 3,000 civilian lives." Tae-ho's eyes narrowed. "That mission report was classified. Who are you? How do you know about that?" "Work for someone who keeps track of heroes," Nari said. She tapped her tablet and a holographic document appeared above it. "We have been watching you for years, Colonel. Every mission, every victory. Every time you put others before yourself." The hologram showed his complete military record. Battles on 6 different worlds. 47 successful missions. Commendations for bravery that were not supposed to exist in any public database. "This is impossible," Tae-ho said. "That information is locked in military computers. No civilian should have access to it." Nari smiled wider. "We are not exactly civilians, okay? My employer operates across many dimensions. Military security is not much of a barrier when you can access data from parallel realities." Tae-ho tried to sit up straighter, but his injured ribs protested. "Dimensions? What are you talking about?" "Let me ask you something," Nari said, leaning forward. "Do you believe in Santa Claus?" The question was so unexpected that Tae-ho almost laughed. "Are you serious?" "Very serious. Christmas presents reindeer, the North Pole. Do you believe any of it is real? I am a grown man. I stopped believing in fairy tales when I was 7 years old." Nari nodded as if she expected this answer. "Most humans do. What if I told you that Santa Claus is not only real, but that he runs the largest peacekeeping operation in the galaxy?" Tae-ho decided the pain medication was definitely affecting his mind. "I would say you need to speak to a doctor. Christmas is real, Colonel. Kata, the gift, giving, the joy, the spirit of helping others. It happens across thousands of worlds in hundreds of dimensions. Santa Claus maintains trade agreements between species that would otherwise be at war. The gifts he delivers are symbols of peace treaties. The songs and stories about Christmas keep entire civilizations from destroying each other." She touched her tablet again. The hologram changed to show a star map unlike anything Tae-ho had ever seen. Lines of light connected hundreds of star systems, forming a web that stretched across the galaxy. "This is the Christmas network," Nari explained. "Every December, Santa and his team deliver gifts to every world in this network. It is the most complex logistics operation in known space. It requires perfect timing, advanced technology, and absolute security." Tae-ho stared at the map. Even if this was all nonsense, the scope was impressive. "Why are you telling me this?" "'Cause we need a new chief security officer. The last one was killed 3 months ago." The cheerful tone in Nari's voice did not change, but something cold passed through her eyes. Tae-ho had seen that look before, in soldiers who had watched friends die. Killed by who? Criminals who want to destroy Christmas. They steal gifts, attack our delivery teams, and try to break the peace treaties. They call themselves the Grinch Syndicate. Tae-ho almost smiled at the name, but Nari's expression stopped him. And you think I can help with this? You are human. Your species comes from a death world. You have reflexes, endurance, and fighting instincts that other species cannot match. You also have something else we need, okay? You understand? Sacrifice. You know what it means to put others before yourself. Christmas is about giving, not taking. We need someone who will protect that idea, even if it costs them everything. Tejo looked at the holographic map again. The light patterns were beautiful, connecting so many worlds. Assuming any of this is real, what would the job involve? You would be responsible for the security of the entire Christmas operation. Training security teams, planning defensive strategies, protecting Santa and his equipment. You would have access to technology beyond anything Earth has developed. You would command forces from dozens of species and to pay. Room and board at the North Pole, full medical coverage. A pension that would make you wealthy by any standard. Plus, you would be saving Christmas for billions of children across the galaxy. Tejo was quiet for a long moment. The rational part of his mind said this was all impossible. But the star map looked so real, and Nari clearly believed every word. She was saying, why me specifically? There must be other qualified candidates. Santa asked for you personally. He said humans have a special connection to Christmas. Your species invented the modern version of the holiday. You understand its meaning better than anyone else. I have not celebrated Christmas in 20 years. I have been fighting wars, which is exactly why you are perfect for this job. You know what happens when peace fails. You have seen the cost of war. You would do anything to prevent that suffering. Nari stood up and placed the glowing tablet on his bedside table. The contract is there if you want to read it. Take your time to decide. But know this, Colonel Kim Taho, if you accept, you will be protecting something more important than any military base or colony. You will be protecting hope itself. She walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and do not worry about the medical discharge. We have already arranged for your injuries to heal completely. Consider it a signing bonus. Before Tejo could respond, she was gone. He stared at the door for several minutes, then looked at the tablet. The holographic contract was still floating above it, written in multiple languages, including Korean. He reached for it with his good hand, wondering if he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life, or perhaps the most important decision he would ever make. 3 days later, Kim Tae-ho stood in the middle of what he thought was the Arctic. The cold should have been unbearable, but somehow he felt perfectly warm. Nari stood beside him, still wearing her green uniform and bright smile. "Ready for the grand tour?" she asked. Tae-ho looked around at the endless white snow. "I don't see anything." Nari pulled out a small device that looked like a candy cane. She pressed a button, and the air in front of them shimmered like heat waves. The snow disappeared, revealing a massive metal door built into what appeared to be a mountain. "Welcome to the North Pole Command Center," Nari said. The door opened with a deep rumble. Warm air flowed out, carrying sounds that made Taeho's eyes widen. He heard the hum of machinery, the beeping of computers, and voices speaking in languages he had never heard before. They walked through a tunnel that stretched for hundreds of meters. The walls were lined with screens showing star charts, weather patterns, and lists of names in dozens of different scripts. Everything looked like a military command center, not a toy workshop. "The stories about elves making toys are not wrong," Nari explained as they walked, "but they only tell part of the truth. We make toys, yes, but we also make defensive systems, communication equipment, and transportation technology that your Earth scientists would not understand for another 1,000 years." They emerged into a vast chamber that took Taeho's breath away. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Thousands of beings worked at stations that stretched in all directions. Some looked like the elves from children's stories, but others were clearly alien. He saw creatures with blue skin, others with scales, and some that appeared to be made of living crystal. "How many species work here?" he asked. 47 at last count, Nari said. "Christmas is an interdimensional operation. We hired the best from every world." A tall man with pointed ears approached them. He wore a practical gray uniform and carried a tablet similar to Neris. "This must be our new security chief," he said, in accented English. "Kim Taeho, meet Park Min-soo," Nari said. "He is our chief engineer." Park Min-soo shook Taeho's hand with a grip that could crush stone. "Welcome to the real North Pole. I hope you are ready for some surprises." They walked through the facility, and Taeho saw things that challenged everything he thought he knew about technology. Workers used tools that bent reality around them. Machines assembled complex devices without any visible power source. In one section, he watched an elf woman lift a piece of metal that should have weighed several tons. "Enhanced gravity manipulation," Park Min-soo explained. "Standard equipment here. We cannot deliver billions of gifts without some help from physics." They passed a section where dozens of beings worked on what looked like military equipment. Taeho recognized some of it as weapons, but others were completely alien to him. "Defense systems," Park Min-soo said. "We have been having problems with raiders lately. They attack our delivery routes and steal the gifts." "The Grinch Syndicate," Taeho said. "You learned fast." "They have been causing trouble for months. The previous security chief tried to handle them using traditional methods. It did not work well." Kay continued the tour, and Taeho met more of the key personnel. Lee Da-yoon ran the intelligence division from a room filled with screens showing real-time data from across the galaxy. She was a serious woman with sharp eyes who spoke in quick, efficient sentences. "The syndicate has hit 17 different systems in the past 2 months," she told Taeho. "They have advanced weapons and seem to know our delivery schedules before we finalize them." "Inside information?" Taeho asked. "Possibly. We are investigating all possibilities." Next, they visited the workshop sections run by Cho Woo-jin, a cheerful man who seemed to enjoy his work despite the serious nature of their situation. He showed Taeho production lines that created millions of gifts while simultaneously manufacturing military equipment. "The beauty of our operation," Cho Woo-jin explained, "is that the same technology that makes a perfect toy can also make a perfect defense system. The precision required is identical." Finally, they reached the area Taeho had been most curious about. The reindeer stables were nothing like the stories suggested. Instead of normal animals, he saw creatures that looked like a cross between deer and dragons. They had antlers that glowed with internal light, and their eyes showed intelligence that was almost human. "Bioengineered for faster-than-light travel," Park Min-soo said. "Each one can carry a payload across multiple dimensions in a single night. They are also excellent combat mounts when necessary." One of the reindeer walked over to Taeho and sniffed his hand. Its breath was warm and smelled like cinnamon. When it looked at him, he had the strange feeling it was judging his character. "Rudolph likes you," said a voice behind them. Taeho turned and saw a man he recognized from 1,000 Christmas cards. Santa Claus was real, but he was not the jolly fat man from the stories. This Santa was tall and broad-shouldered, with muscles that spoke of hard work and harder fights. His beard was white, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "You must be Kim Taeho," Santa said, extending his hand. "I am Nicholas. Thank you for accepting the position." Taeho shook the offered hand and felt calluses that could only come from years of manual labor. "I am not sure I have accepted yet. This is all a bit overwhelming." Santa smiled, and for a moment he looked like the cheerful figure from the stories. "I understand. When I first learned about the interdimensional nature of Christmas, I thought I was losing my mind. but the work we do here is important. We maintain peace between species that would otherwise destroy each other. Nari mentioned that Christmas prevents wars, more than prevents. Christmas actively creates connections between different worlds. When children from different species receive gifts made by the same elves, it builds understanding. When parents see their children happy because of our work, it makes them less likely to support conflicts. Santa gestured toward the activity around them. This is not just about toys and celebration. This is about survival. The galaxy is full of species that fear and hate each other. Christmas gives them something positive to focus on instead. Watch the workers around them. Despite their different appearances, they all seemed to share a sense of purpose. And the Grinch Syndicate wants to destroy this. Santa's expression grew serious. They want to break the peace. They believe that conflict and suffering are natural, and that our work is interfering with the natural order. They have been growing bolder lately. Lee Dayun mentioned they might have inside information. That is our greatest fear. If someone here is feeding them intelligence, they could do far more damage than just stealing gifts. They could destroy the entire network. Teho looked around at the massive operation. Thousands of beings working together, advanced technology, and a mission that apparently kept the galactic peace. It was everything he had trained for as a soldier, but on a scale he had never imagined. What happened to the previous security chief? Santa's face darkened. He was killed during a raid 3 months ago. The Syndicate ambushed one of our delivery teams. He died protecting the gifts, and the delivery personnel were the gifts that important. Those particular gifts were peace treaty documents disguised as toys. If they had been stolen, 2 species would have gone to war. Billions would have died. Teho nodded slowly. This was not about children's toys anymore. This was about preventing wars and saving lives. It was exactly the kind of work he had always wanted to do. I accept the position, he said. Santa smiled again. Excellent. When can you start? Already have. Kim Taho had been chief security officer for only 2 weeks when the emergency alarms started blaring. He was in his new office studying security reports when Lee Dayun burst through the door without knocking. We have a situation, she said, her face pale. The Syndicate just hit 3 delivery routes at the same time. Teho followed her to the main command center. The large screens showed chaos across multiple star systems. Red warning lights flashed as reports came in from field teams. Show me what happened, Teho said. Lee Dayun pointed to the central display. First attack was in the Kepler system. Our delivery team was ambushed while dropping gifts at a mining colony. They got away, but the Syndicate stole the entire cargo. What was in the cargo? Medical supplies disguised as toys. That colony has been fighting a plague for months. Without those supplies, thousands will die. Teho felt his jaw tighten. This was not just a theft. This was mass murder. What about the other attacks? A canned attack hit our team near the Vega system. They were delivering educational materials to a planet that just ended a civil war. The Syndicate took everything and destroyed our transport. Casualties. 3 elves in the medical bay. They will recover, but it was close. The third attack was the worst. A delivery team heading to a refugee planet had been completely destroyed. The transport, the gifts, and all 6 crew members were gone. Any survivors? Teho asked. None. The Syndicate left no evidence except their calling card. She showed him a holographic message that had been broadcast on all frequencies near the attack site. A creature that looked like a large, angry version of the Christmas Grinch appeared on screen. I am Boss Grinch, the creature said in a rough voice. Christmas is a lie. Peace is weakness. We will destroy every gift, every symbol of your false hope until the galaxy returns to its natural state of war. The message ended with images of the destroyed transport and the murdered crew members. Santa arrived at the command center as the message finished. His face was grim, and Tejo noticed he was wearing armor under his red coat. "How many more attacks do we expect?" Santa asked. "Intelligence suggests at least 6 more targets," Lee Dayun replied. "They seem to know our delivery schedules better than we do. Inside information," Tejo said. "Someone here is feeding them data." Santa nodded. "That is what we feared. But right now, we need to focus on protecting the remaining deliveries." "What do you recommend?" Tejo studied the star map. The syndicate attacks had been precise and well-timed. They knew exactly when and where to strike for maximum damage. Traditional defense methods would not work against an enemy with inside intelligence. "We need to change our approach completely," he said. "No more predictable schedules. No more standard routes. We treat this like a military campaign." "What do you mean?" Santa asked. "We use human military tactics, deception, misdirection, and overwhelming force. The syndicate expects us to follow the same patterns we have always used. We give them something completely different." Tejo turned to the assembled staff. "I need volunteers for a special security team. This will be dangerous work." An elf woman stepped forward. She was tall for her species, with scars on her hands that suggest a combat experience. "I volunteer. My name is Jung Haijin. I was a soldier before I came here." "What kind of soldier?" "Special forces. I fought in the border wars before joining the Christmas operation." "Okay." More volunteers stepped forward. Keho was surprised to see that many of the North Pole workers had military backgrounds. They had come to Christmas seeking peace, but they were still capable fighters. "Good," Tejo said. "We will form 3 teams. Each team will escort a delivery convoy using different tactics." He explained his plan. Instead of the normal, predictable routes, they would use multiple fake convoys to confuse the syndicate. The real deliveries would be disguised as routine supply runs. The security teams would be hidden among the regular crew. "What about weapons?" Jung Haijin asked. "We improvise." Kim Seo-jin, "I need you to modify some of the workshop equipment." "Okay?" Seo-jin was a young technician who had been working on toy assembly lines. His eyes lit up when he heard the request. "What kind of modifications?" "Anything that can be turned into a weapon. Toy laser pointers become targeting systems. Remote control cars become reconnaissance drones. Use your imagination." The next few days were intense. Tejo trained the volunteer security teams in human military tactics. Many of the techniques were new to the alien personnel, but they learned quickly. Jung Haijin proved to be an excellent student. She adapted human squad movements to work with mixed species teams. Her elf reflexes, combined with human tactical knowledge, made her a formidable fighter. Kim Seo-jin surprised everyone by creating weapons from workshop materials. He turned a teddy bear into a portable communication system. A toy rocket became a tracking device. A towel house was modified to deploy defensive shields. "Humans have an interesting approach to warfare," Park Min-soo observed. "You use whatever is available. I call it improvisation," Tejo said. "When you come from a death world, you've learned to survive with limited resources." The first test came 3 days later. Intelligence detected a syndicate force moving toward a delivery convoy heading to the Centauri system. Keho's team was ready. Instead of 1 convoy, they sent 5. 4 were decoys carrying empty containers. The real convoy was disguised as a routine supply run for a mining station. The syndicate attacked the largest decoy convoy with overwhelming force. They found nothing but empty boxes and a surprise waiting for them. Jung Haijin's team had hidden in the decoy convoy. When the syndicate boarded the transport, they found themselves facing trained fighters using modified Christmas equipment. The battle was short and decisive. Kim Seo-gin's modified toys allowed the security team to track every syndicate fighter. The toy weapons proved surprisingly effective against military armor. Target neutralized, Jung Haijin reported over the communication system. Syndicate forces retreating. We have prisoners. Meanwhile, the real convoy completed its delivery without incident. The medical supplies reached the colony that needed them, and thousands of lives were saved. Back at the North Pole, Taeho interrogated the captured syndicate fighters. They were a mixed group of species, all united by their hatred of Christmas and what it represented. "Why do you want to destroy Christmas?" he asked their leader. "Because it makes people weak," the prisoner replied. "Peace is not natural, it's conflict. Makes species stronger. Your Christmas creates soft, dependent societies. And you think war is better? War is honest. War shows the truth about survival. Your gifts and celebrations are lies." Taeho studied the prisoner's face. He saw a genuine belief there, not just criminal greed. The syndicate truly believed they were doing the right thing. "How many more of you are there?" The prisoner smiled. "Enough. We know all your secrets. We know your schedules, your routes, your weaknesses. Boss Grinch will destroy Christmas, and there's nothing you can do to stop us." "We will see about that," Taeho said. As he left the interrogation room, he felt both victory and concern. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The syndicate still had inside information, and their leader was still free. But, for the first time since arriving at the North Pole, Taeho felt hopeful. Human military tactics were working. The security teams were learning fast. And somewhere in the galaxy, children were receiving gifts that would keep their worlds at peace. The real fight was just beginning. Kim Taeho could not sleep. For 3 weeks, the security teams had been winning against the Grinch Syndicate. They had stopped 12 attacks and captured over 50 syndicate fighters. Something was wrong. The enemy still knew too much about their operations. Every time they changed delivery schedules, the syndicate adapted within hours. Someone at the North Pole was feeding them information. Taeho sat in his office at 2 in the morning, studying personnel files. He had reviewed every worker, every elf, every alien team member. Everyone seemed loyal to Christmas and the peace it represented. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Lee Dayun entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You should get some rest," she said, handing him a cup. "I will rest when we find the traitor," Taeho replied. "They are out there somewhere, and people are dying because of them." Lee Dayun sat down across from his desk. "I've been thinking about the information leaks. The syndicate always knows our schedules, but they also seem to know which deliveries are most important." "What do you mean?" "They attacked the medical supply convoy to the plague planet. They hit the peace treaty delivery to the border worlds. They always target the gifts that would cause the most damage if stolen." Taeho nodded. Someone with high-level access. Someone who knows the true importance of each delivery. The list of people with that kind of access is very short. Before Taeho could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and the emergency communication system activated. "All security personnel to stations," came the announcement. "We have multiple breaches in the outer perimeter." Taeho and Lee Dayun ran to the command center. The main screens showed chaos outside the North Pole facility. Syndicate forces were attacking from 3 directions at once. Jung Haijin was already coordinating the defense. "They have at least 200 fighters," she reported. "Heavy weapons, advanced armor. This is not a raid. This is a full assault." Santa arrived wearing full combat armor. His cheerful demeanor was gone, replaced by the focused intensity of a warrior. "They are trying to reach the main workshop. If they destroy the gift production lines, Christmas will be delayed by months." "How did they get past our early warning systems?" Taeho asked. Lee Dayun checked her screens. All the perimeter sensors were turned off 20 minutes ago. Someone disabled them from inside the facility. Tejo felt cold anger building in his chest. The traitor had not just leaked information, they had actively helped the enemy attack. Christmas itself. Jin, take teams Alpha and Beta to defend the workshop. Kim, Seo Ken, I need every defensive weapon you have built. Park Minzo, can you get the reindeer ready for combat? Already on it, Park Minzu replied. Rudolph and his team are saddled and ready. Explosions shook the facility as Syndicate forces breached the outer doors. Through the security cameras, Tejo watched enemy fighters pour into the corridors. They moved with military precision, heading directly for the most important areas. Know the layout perfectly, Lee Dayun observed. Someone gave them detailed maps. Tejo grabbed his weapon and headed for the door. Keep monitoring communications. If the traitor tries to contact the Syndicate during the battle, we might be able to trace them. The corridors of the North Pole had become a battlefield. Security teams fought desperately against Syndicate raiders. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the facility. Taho found Jung Haijin leading a defensive position near the main workshop. She was using one of Kim Seokjin's modified toys, a teddy bear that projected energy shields. Status report. Tejo called out. We are holding them back, but barely, Jung Haijin replied. They keep coming in waves. It's like they know exactly where our weak points are. A massive explosion rocked the facility. Through the smoke, Tejo saw a figure that made his blood freeze. Boss Grinch himself had entered the battle. The creature stood 3 meters tall, covered in spiked armor, carrying weapons that glowed with dark energy. So, you are the famous human security chief, Boss Grinch said in his rough voice. The Deathworlder who thinks he can protect Christmas. Huh, I do not think, Tejo replied, raising his weapon. I know. The fight was brutal. Boss Grinch was stronger and faster than any opponent Tejo had ever faced. His weapons could cut through the strongest defenses, and his armor seemed to absorb energy attacks. But Tejo had advantages that the Syndicate leader did not expect. Human reflexes, trained by a lifetime on a death world, allowed him to dodge attacks that would have killed other species. His tactical mind found weaknesses in the enemy's fighting style. The battle moved through the workshop, past assembly lines and gift storage areas. Christmas presents scattered as the two fighters crashed through displays and equipment. Meanwhile, Jung Haijin coordinated the overall defense. The elf security teams, trained in human tactics, fought with a coordination that surprised the Syndicate forces. Kim Seok-sin's improvised weapons proved devastatingly effective. Outside, Park Min-soo led the reindeer cavalry in aerial combat against Syndicate aircraft. The bioengineered creatures moved through the sky like living missiles, their glowing antlers cutting through enemy formations. But the real breakthrough came from Lee Da-yoon in the command center while monitoring communications. She detected a signal being transmitted from inside the facility to the Syndicate forces. The signal was coming from the administrative offices. Lee Da-yoon traced the transmission to its source and felt her heart sink. The traitor was Director Sang-ho, Santa's longtime assistant and trusted advisor. She watched the security cameras as Sang-ho sent detailed information about North Pole defenses to the attacking forces. He was telling them exactly where to hunt. Strike for maximum damage. I found our traitor, she announced over the communication system. Tejo heard the message while fighting Boss Grinch. The revelation gave him new strength. All the leaked information, all the failed missions, all the deaths had been caused by someone they trusted. He fought with renewed fury, driving Boss Grinch back through the workshop. The Syndicate leader was powerful, but he was not prepared for the full rage of a human protecting something he cared about. The turning point came when Santa himself entered the battle. The real Santa was nothing like the jolly figure from stories. He fought with the power of someone who had been protecting Christmas for centuries. Energy flowed from his hands. Weapons appeared from nowhere, and his very presence seemed to make the North Pole defenses stronger. This was not just a man in a red suit. This was an interdimensional guardian using his full power. Boss Grinch found himself fighting both Tahoe and Santa at the same time. Even with his advanced weapons and armor, he could not stand against their combined assault. This is not over, Boss Grinch snarled as his forces began to retreat. Christmas will fall. Peace will end. War will return to the galaxy. Not while I am here, Tahoe replied. The Syndicate forces withdrew, leaving behind damaged equipment and captured fighters. The North Pole had survived, but the cost was high. Several elms had been injured, and parts of the facility were badly damaged. In the administrative offices, security teams arrested Director Sang-ho, the man who had helped coordinate Christmas operations for decades, had betrayed everything he once protected. Why? Santa asked as they led Sang-ho away. You have been part of this family for 30 years. 'Cause Christmas is a lie, Sang-ho replied. You make people dependent on gifts and celebrations. You weaken them. The galaxy needs conflict to grow stronger. You chose war over peace, Tahoe said. You chose death over joy. I chose truth over fantasy. As they took Sang-ho to the detention cells, Tahoe felt both victory and sadness. They had found the traitor and defeated the assault, but the trust that held the North Pole together had been damaged. Santa placed a hand on Tahoe's shoulder. You did well today. Without your leadership, we would have lost everything. We are not done yet, Tahoe replied. Huh? Boss Grinch is still out there, and he will try again. Let him try. We will be ready. Tahoe looked around at the damaged workshop, already being repaired by determined elves and aliens working together. Christmas would continue. Peace would be protected. And anyone who threatened either would face the full fury of a human Deathworlder who had found his true purpose. The war was not over, but the North Pole had proven it could not be easily defeated. 3 months after the battle at the North Pole, Kim Tahoe stood in the rebuilt command center watching the final preparations for Christmas Eve. The facility hummed with activity as thousands of workers prepared for the most important night of the year. The repairs had taken weeks, but the North Pole was now stronger than ever. New security systems protected every entrance. Advanced shields covered the entire facility. Most importantly, the staff worked with renewed purpose after surviving the Syndicate attack. Final delivery schedule confirmed, Lee Dayun announced from her station. All routes are secure. No Syndicate activity detected in any sector. Tahoe nodded with satisfaction. The past 3 months had been busy. After Director Sang-ho's arrest, they had completely rebuilt the security protocols. Every communication was encrypted. All personnel underwent new background checks. Access to sensitive information was strictly limited. Jung Hae-jin approached with her daily report. She now wore the uniform of Deputy Security Chief, a promotion she had earned through her courage during the battle. Security teams are in position across all delivery zones, she reported. The new protocols are working perfectly. No information leaks detected. What about the Grinch Syndicate? Tahoe asked. Intelligence suggests they are still active, but much weaker. Boss Grinch has not been seen since the attack. Most of their fighters are in hiding. The capture of Director Sang-ho had been devastating to the Syndicate. Without inside information, they could no longer predict Christmas operations. Their attacks became random and ineffective. Many Syndicate cells had been captured or had simply given up. Kim Seogin joined them, carrying a tablet displaying the latest production numbers. His department had grown from a small workshop team to the entire defensive technology division. All security equipment is ready, he announced proudly. Every delivery team has improved shields, better communication systems, and enough defensive weapons to handle any trouble. What about the new academy? Keiho asked. Kim Seo-gen's eyes lit up. The Christmas Defense Academy graduated its first class last week. 50 new security officers from 12 different species. They are all trained in human tactical methods. The academy had been THO's idea, instead of relying on volunteers. During emergencies, they now had professionally trained security personnel. The academy taught human military tactics adapted for the unique challenges of protecting. Christmas operations. Santa entered the command center, wearing his traditional red suit. After the battle, he had returned to his cheerful public image, but Taeho could still see the warrior underneath. "How are we looking for tonight?" Santa asked. "Perfect," Taeho replied. "All systems green, all routes secured. This will be the safest Christmas delivery in the operation's history." "Excellent. The peace treaties we are delivering tonight will prevent 3 potential wars. The medical supplies will save millions of lives. The educational materials will help entire civilizations advance peacefully." Taeho watched the activity around them. Loaded sleighs with carefully wrapped packages. Alien technicians ran final checks on navigation systems. The reindeer waited in their stables, ready for their journey across the galaxy. It was hard to believe that 6 months ago he had been a wounded soldier in a military hospital. Now he was protecting the most important peacekeeping operation in the galaxy. "Sleigh 1, ready for departure," Park Min-soo announced over the communication system. Santa smiled and put on his red hat. Time to get to work. Taeho followed Santa to the launch bay. The main sleigh was a masterpiece of interdimensional engineering. It looked like the traditional sleigh from Earth Stories. Taeho knew it contained technology that could travel between dimensions in seconds. The reindeer were magnificent. Rudolph led the team, his red nose glowing with energy that could guide them through any storm or obstacle. The other reindeer pawed the ground, eager to begin their flight. "Every year, I am amazed by this sight," Santa said as he climbed into the sleigh. "It's the most advanced transportation system in the galaxy, powered by the spirit of giving. Will you be safe out there?" Taeho asked. Santa laughed, and for a moment he sounded like the jolly figure from children's stories. "With your security preparations, I have never been safer. Besides, the reindeer are excellent bodyguards when necessary." As if to prove his point, Rudolph snorted and his antlers glowed brighter. The other reindeer stamped their feet, showing they were ready for anything. "Launch sequence initiated," came the announcement from the control room. The launch bay opened to reveal the star-filled sky above the North Pole. Energy flowed through the facility as the interdimensional engines activated. "Ho ho ho," Santa called out as the sleigh rose into the air. "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." The sleigh accelerated upward, then disappeared in a flash of multicolored light. In seconds, Santa and his reindeer were traveling across dimensions, beginning their journey to billions of worlds. Taeho returned to the command center to monitor the deliveries. Screens showed Santa's progress as he moved from system to system. The new security measures worked perfectly. No interference, no attacks, no problems. First delivery completed successfully, Lee Dayun reported. Medical supplies delivered to the Tau Ceti colony. The plague victims are already responding to treatment. More reports came in throughout the night. Peace treaties delivered to warring species. Food supplies reaching refugee planets. Educational materials arriving at schools that I'd never seen. Books before each delivery was a small miracle. Each gift represented hope, knowledge, or healing. Together, they maintained the web of peace that held the galaxy together. Delivery to the border worlds completed, Chung Haijan announced. Both sides have signed the peace agreement. The war is officially over. Taeho felt deep satisfaction. This was better than any military victory he had ever achieved. Instead of defeating enemies, they were creating friends. Instead of destroying, they were building as dawn approached. Santa returned to the North Pole. His sleigh landed smoothly in the launch bay, and the reindeer snorted with satisfaction after a successful mission. Perfect delivery, Santa announced as he climbed down from the sleigh. Not a single problem anywhere. Your security systems worked flawlessly. The command center erupted in cheers. Workers from dozens of species celebrated together, united by their shared success. Later that morning, Tejo stood on the observation deck, overlooking the North Pole facility. The Arctic sun cast long shadows across the snow, but inside the facility, the work continued. Christmas was over for this year, but preparation for next year had already begun. Nari joined him on the deck, carrying a steaming cup of cocoa. Any regrets about leaving your military career? She asked. Tadho considered the question. 6 months ago, he had been a soldier whose job was to fight and destroy. Now he was a protector whose job was to preserve peace and spread joy. None, he said finally. This is what I was meant to do. The Christmas Defense Academy has received applications from humans across the galaxy, Nari said. They all want to join our security forces. Good. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Christmas needs all the protection it can get. A message arrived on Tejo's personal communicator. K. It was from Earth, from the military command he had once served. K. They wanted to know if he would consider returning to active duty. Tejo deleted the message without reading it completely. His warfighting days were over. Now he was in the business of keeping peace. Sir, Jung Hai-jin's voice came over the communication system. We have detected a new criminal organization forming in the outer sectors. They call themselves the Easter Syndicate. Tejo smiled grimly. Assemble the security teams. It looks like we have more work to do. As he headed back to the command center, Tejo reflected on how much his life had changed. He was no longer just a soldier from Earth. He was the guardian of Christmas, protector of peace across the galaxy, and the chief security officer for the most important core organization in known space. The Deathworlder had found his true calling, and the galaxy was safer because of it. Christmas would continue. Peace would be protected. And any force that threatened either would face the full determination of a human who had chosen hope over war, joy over destruction, and giving over taking. The North Pole was ready for whatever came next.